What's up, fellas? Welcome to a brand new episode of The Sports Student. My name is Wendell Epps, aka The Sports Student. In today's podcast, I'll be interviewing Sam Rothman. Sam currently works as a sports anchor and reporter at KTAL NBC 6 in Louisiana. She is a Syracuse graduate, and in this podcast, she'll talk about how she got started in the sports media industry and also share some advice on what it takes to succeed in the sports media industry as a whole. So sit back, relax, enjoy the podcast, and without further ado, this is a sports student interview with Sam Rothman. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Sports Student. My name is Wendell Epps. Today, I'm glad to be joined by Sam Rothman. Sam, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great.
That's awesome. So first thing first, if you could just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, where you got started in the sports media industry and where you are now.
Yeah, so I graduated from Syracuse in 2020, which was probably the worst year ever to graduate just because there were no jobs, and especially no jobs in sports. We always thought that sports would never shut down, and it happened. So it was tough, but I did a little freelancing back home. I'm from Long Island, so I was back home on Long Island. I worked at a doctor's office for a couple of months. I worked in fashion for a little bit because my sister works in fashion. So all of these things that I thought I would not be doing while still applying for jobs. And then in March of this year, I decided to move down south, change my scenery, and I started a job as a sports reporter here in Shreveport, Louisiana. And I've been here for about a few months now, 3.5, 4 months. So yeah, it's been good so far.
That's fantastic. So I have to ask, being in Louisiana, what's the most fun thing to do there?
What's the most fun thing? I don't know if I can say it on this podcast, but they have drive-through daiquiri places. We don't have that in New York where you can just drive through and get a nice drink. So that's always the spot after work for a lot of us for that work weekends and late nights. But it's been nice. The weather, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with it because being in Syracuse, it was, a frozen tundra. Now I'm in the complete opposite. We're going to be hitting 100 this week. Real feel probably 110 with the humidity. So, but it's nice, to get a little bit of some sunshine. I know I'll love it when it's like December, January. I don't have to deal with snow. So.
Oh yeah, definitely, because the snow up in New York is crazy. We all know that.
Especially in Syracuse. So yes, it'll be a nice change.
Yeah, for sure. But you going to Syracuse, I mean, Syracuse is known for being one of the top schools, especially if you're trying to get into the sports and news media industry. So can you talk a little bit about your time at Syracuse and sort of what were some cool things you were able to do there?
Yeah, so I guess going back a little bit, when I talked to my dad he kind of persuaded me to go into sports and all that when he realized, okay, yeah, she actually likes this. He told me I have no choice, that I have to go to Syracuse. So I did. And then once I got there, I mean, I really wanted to get involved right away, but it's also that everyone around you is coming in. I remember that I came in as a freshman. I had no experience in high school. We had a newscast. So I did that, but people were coming in already broadcasting games, had been on national networks. I was like, wow, this place is for real. So I got to step it up a little bit. So yeah, I got involved in everything that I could, from all the different TV stations, and with your classes, you get real experience and you work your way up. And then ended up, you start off, just helping out with the reporters that are there. So you shadow, you help photog, you start editing, doing production stuff, you work your way up to be reporter, anchor. And then in my final 2 years, I worked with a local hockey team up there, doing some radio with them. And then we also had ACC Network, which was really fortunate for us to have. I had that experience for 3 years. And doing a little bit of everything, stats, helping out with all production. I was able to do some really cool features. I was able to do some ringside reporting. So a lot. And I think that's what's great about Syracuse, is that you get a lot of experience in all different things. And then that's all outside the classroom, but inside the classroom, you're learning the fundamentals of, most of what we did in school is news, but that carries over to sports. It's still, you need a good story, you need to be able to shoot, you need to be able to write. And so that really, I think, is what helps a lot, is that you have that, base, and you can just translate that to anything.
Yeah, definitely. It's important to get all that experience, get those reps in. It can only help in the long run. I have to ask you, do you
Exactly.
remember your first story you ever did in college, maybe with the news station or whatever?
I do. So, well, my first video story. So I did a radio for that was my June or end of sophomore year, beginning of junior year, you do radio, you work your way up. But my first TV story, I do remember, I did it on Boy Scouts USA was allowing Girl Scouts for the first time. And I I used to be a Girl Scout, so I was like, oh, this is great. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna do an interactive stand-up, I'm gonna put on the vest. I was like, oh, I did something about how, oh, girls, can only wear this vest, but now, and I like walked out of frame, walked back in, and I was wearing the Boy Scout vest. And I thought it was so cool. I was like, this is great. I put it together and I realized that I did it the opposite way. So I was supposed to leave and then walk back in, but instead I just crossed over. So that was something, but yeah, that was my first story that I ever did. And I had a quick learning lesson, not to get too fancy for the first try. So yeah.
That is quite the first story. I ask people
Yeah.
that question and, they'll just be like, oh, I just did, a general like basketball game or whatever. But,
Yeah.
here you are talking about that. So like going
Trying
back,
to do it. Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. Cause like going back even younger too, like
Mhm.
just like, what were your thoughts on like sports, like growing up? Like, were you a big fan of any teams, players?
Yeah, so actually before I wanted to be a sports broadcaster, I wanted to be a news
Cool.
reporter.
Yeah.
And I went on a trip in 5th grade to the museum and we were able to do a mock newscast and I fell in love with it. I still have that video. So I always thought I was going to do news. But growing up, my dad was a big sports fan. So in turn, I became a big sports fan. And I would growing up, I went to games all the time. I'm a diehard Rangers fan. I grew up with season tickets. So I'm a big hockey girl. So grew up going to those games. Also Jets, Mets. If we weren't at the games, I was watching with my dad, and I always joke he would give me trivia questions. I'd be like, Dad, I need you to drive me to school. He's like, all right, well, you can't go to school unless you answer this correctly. I was like, all right, I don't think Mom would like this. If I get this wrong, I think I need to go to school. But so it was kind of ingrained in me, sports, and then I just fell in love with it, and I love talking and I love telling stories. So I said, I'm just combine my love of sports with that, and yeah, here I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know up in New York, there's a lot of teams up there. I heard the Jets in there.
They
So
struggle. They struggle, but there's a lot of them.
Yeah, it's always great to be passionate about it, though. But I want to transition over to talk about social media because social media is like taking over the sports media industry. It seems like day by day. I want to know for you. I'm gonna give you an important question here. What's your favorite social media platform? But also, if there was one social media platform that you could get rid of forever because you feel like it just does not provide any benefits to the sports media industry, what are you going to say for that one?
Okay, so my favorite is Twitter.
Okay.
Because in the morning, like I'm going to work in a little bit and I'm going to anchor tonight, and I was scrolling through Twitter saying what's going on. All right, this is what I'm going to cover. This is what I'm going to do tonight. So honestly, I get a lot of my information from Twitter. So that is the one that I like the best. Also love-hate relationship with it because sometimes you're scrolling through like, what are you talking about here? Sometimes. I don't know what I would get. I would think maybe Instagram just because I don't see beef, but now I do, especially with college athletes, name, image, and likeness. I think they can really use it to their benefit, all their social media. But in terms of me, in terms of coverage with the job, I just that's one that I don't see as, useful. But yeah, Twitter is definitely the one that I'm on all the time.
Yeah, Twitter, like you said, too, it can be unpredictable at times, which is,
yeah, right. So sometimes you just have to laugh at it and say, all right, take a step back a little bit. But
yeah, it's just like, where are these people coming from? Like, you'll see these random accounts. It's like,
well, it's you have once you can just say whatever you want. That's a great thing. We have that ability, but sometimes it's like, think before you type, right?
Exactly. So like that kind of leads me to my next question too. Like, how have you seen the sports media industry change since you first entered it? And like with the social media thing, like growing, like where do you see it kind of taking off in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm very new to it. Obviously, I've been at my job for about 4 months. But I do see in terms of local sports, I think it's really tough now for local sports to stay afloat, especially with the presence of social media, because if you're waiting for your 10 o'clock newscast for a game that just happened, you can just be watching on your phone, getting highlights, getting all of these things. You don't have to. So you have to make sure that you're providing something extra. So that's what I think is so great about local sports, is that you can tell those stories that you're not able to get on social media. But again, it's, it's hard, because it's hard to keep up with social media that is taking over. I mean, at our station, we have meetings every week about digital, how we're going to grow our digital platforms. What are we going to do differently? What kind of video, what kind of articles, what kind of teases are we going to put out there to make people tune in? So basically for my job, what we really focus on is putting on social media, teasing what we have or where we're at today, to make sure that they watch at the 6 and 10 for the full story. But in terms, let's say if you were a team reporter working with a team, you're going to be constantly tweeting updates if you're at a press conference, if you're at a practice. But we do the same thing too, but it's just on a bigger scale. So I think just the important thing is, sometimes it's overwhelming. Like you said, there's so much on social media. Just make sure that when you are tweeting something, it has some substance, that you're not just tweeting something for the sake of tweeting it, because people on social media also, videos, pictures are everything, because people don't want, they want to see something. They want to see what you're talking about. Also keeping it short. I mean, there's a lot of different tools that I'm working on, because like I said, I'm new to it. I'm trying to learn it myself. But I think just the important thing is catching someone's attention very quickly and providing something that they can't find anywhere else.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely think it's important to make sure that when you're putting something out there, that you're able to grab people's attention right away, because people are not going to want to watch a full 10-minute video of you. They're going to watch the first 30 seconds.
And that's exactly why Twitter has that limit, that 2-minute, 20-second limit, for a reason, because, people are doing something else already, probably halfway through. So you have to, keep it short, but make an impact. So, yeah.
Yeah, most certainly. And with the job you have now, is there like a normal day routine, or is it like every day sort of different?
No, and I think that's the best part of it. Every day is something different. So
awesome.
So I'm a sports reporter, but I also anchor. I anchor probably like once or twice a week. Right now is Olympics, and we're an NBC station, so it's been crazy. So, but normally, we have a set schedule for the week. I'll be going to a shoot, I'll be going to a game, I'll be going to a practice, something cool is going on, I'll be covering that. You come back, edit that together, put it in the show, and maybe we have a 5:30, a 6, a 9, and a 10 o'clock newscast. So right now, we're gearing up towards the season, but over the summer, there wasn't much to do during that break. But when I first showed up, I would go to a game and another game in between or something like that, get that back in for the later shows. And then we have a Sunday night show. We produce that, put video in, recapping sports. When I anchor, like for today, I'll come in, I'll see like I said, I'll check Twitter, see what's going on, and everything starts put together. So if you produce the newscast, then you anchor it. So you get to do a lot, every single day is different depending on what's going on. And like I said, that's the beauty of it. It's a lot, you're working long hours, you're driving all over, especially here in Shreveport. We are the Arklatex, so we cover Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas. So it's a lot, but great opportunities. And football season's right around the corner. I've never experienced football in the South, so I'm really, really excited for it. Going out to some football practices later this week, early in the morning, to get ready for the season. So it's a lot, but it's really fun and really rewarding, because every day brings something new and you're learning every day. So that's what's important.
Yeah, that seems really cool. You said Arklatex, is that what it's called?
Arklatex, yeah, Arklatex. Wow. So it's a mouthful, and we say it a lot. So yeah, Arklatex.
That's awesome. And throughout your time working so far in that new position, what has been like the most memorable story you've been able to do so far?
So I do have a very memorable story. So it was actually like my second or third story that I did. So we have a junior hockey team here, and they ended up winning the championship. But I was told about this assistant honorary coach that they have, Coach Chris. And Coach Chris has been with this team forever. And he has kind of worked his way up from super fan to where Coach has created a special position just for him as an honorary assistant coach, and he does everything for this team. He has a great relationship with the players, and he was diagnosed with autism, and it's really been a great experience for him to be with a team and get something that maybe like he wouldn't have thought that he would be able to do. So I did a feature on him and the special relationship he has with these players. And his mom, like after it, like was crying to me saying, you know, you made him a celebrity, and just the amount of exposure he got from it was just awesome. So rewarding for me to see and how much he loved it. And then I kind of did a little series because they ended up making it to the championship, and the team and the community rallied together to raise money to send him to the championship. So he was able to be there. He was able to hoist the cup with the players and everything. So it was awesome. And one of the coaches told us during the game, they gave the puck to Coach Chris because they had seen the feature and they knew about Coach Chris all the way up in Minnesota for the championship, and they knew and they saw the story and they loved what he was doing with the team. So for me, it was just awesome. To be honest, I was stressing out about it for a lot putting it together because I wanted to make sure that I did it justice and told his story in the right way, because I knew that he was such a special part of this team. And it was awesome. And now he's one of my close friends here in Syracuse, in Shreveport. So it's just been great. And that's what's so great about working in local sports, is that you really get to, you know, immerse yourself in these teams and tell these stories that no one would have known. I didn't know who this guy was on the bench, you know, but he has a really important story to tell. So that's been my favorite so far.
That is an amazing story. I love that. And that's just like the beauty of sports in general, and like being in the sports media industry, like you have a chance to tell these incredible stories. I mean, there's so many great people out there. So it's just fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So looking back on your college experience, is there anything that maybe you wish you knew in college about sports media, or just working in any field really, that you didn't know or didn't learn until a little later?
You know what? I feel really lucky that I was able to go to Syracuse and have a lot of experiences, because I had things thrown at me there where, you know, things happen. Things do not go to plan all the time. And I had some of those experiences in Syracuse where batteries had died, cameras weren't working. We had to think of it on the spot. You know, technical difficulties, monitors went down, teleprompters went down. Actually, funny enough, so my first day on air here, my mic was off. And I didn't know, you know what, that is something I wish I learned. So we use the same mics, but at school, there's a little like switch, and it says mute or mic line, and we never switched it to mute. Here at my station, some reporters and anchors switch it to mute. So I thought I just turned it on. I didn't know about the switch. So I go on and I'm talking, my mic's off. So they threw to like some video, and then one of the anchors came over to me, was helping me, like turned on really quickly, and then I was back. But in that situation, I really didn't freak out because I had things happen to me like that before. So I kind of just knew you have to roll with the punches, you know, laugh it off a little bit. It's not the end of the world. You know, all these things happen. So I got through that. And then my second day, teleprompter broke on me. And I was like, I'm done with this place. Like it is just crazy. But again, we have iPads, so I was able to read off it, but it's scary in the moment. You know, you're staring and all of a sudden it goes blank and you're like, but you can't go blank, you know, you're still on TV. So I think I was really lucky that in Syracuse, they taught you what to do in those situations because things went wrong. And I think even sometimes my professors like made things go wrong just to like teach us, like, so if this happens, I remember we were doing an exercise where we had to do live shots. And my professor like was throwing things at us and just like screaming in the background, like, well, if you're at, you know, a rowdy event, let's say you're at a championship game or you're at a protest or something, these are things you're going to have to deal with. So, you know, get ready for it. So I think that that was a big thing that I was prepared for. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is to just not get worried in the moment and just say, you know, things happen. Time management has been a thing that was at school, but also a bigger thing here. It's a lot at once, you know, you have to make sure that you have, you know, I keep notes. I'm a big writer of lists and things like that. You just need to make sure that you're on top of everything because it can become overwhelming. But when you have a list and, you know, check it off as you go. You say, okay, I can get this done, and it's all good, you know, don't stress. So that's kind of what I've learned in my first only couple of months here.
Yeah, definitely seems like you've already learned a lot, which is great, and you're only going to keep learning, which is even more awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how would you describe yourself if I were to ask someone, what's Sam Rothman like in front of the camera? What's the answer to that?
So I like when I was talking a little bit about like I don't get if something happens, I just kind of laugh it off. That's kind of my personality. Things are gonna happen. I just try because we're sports. It's supposed to be fun. Unfortunately, in the market that I'm in, there have been a lot of sad stories lately going on. And you know what? Once it turns to 6:22, when sports comes on, it's a little bit of a break from that. So you want to be high energy. You want to be, cracking jokes a little bit. You just want to be telling it in a fun way. I try to be as casual and conversational as I can be because it is sports, so you're able to do that, which is fun, but we don't have sad news, we're trying to tell happy stories, get people a little bit of a break from, everything that's going on. So I try to, match that with that. Just last week, it was a little slow for a little bit there before, football started revving back up, but we had a super retriever series. So there's a dog show coming to Shreveport. So of course I put my dog in the show and I compared these dogs that are, swimming and fetching and doing all these crazy things to my dog in a costume of a mailman. And I said, I don't know who's better. I don't really know. So we did that. And, just putting some fun things in like that, making it a little bit personal, is always fun. So that's what I try to do.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. I mean, you have every right to have fun. It's sports. So that's really what it's all about.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So looking like long-term, what's the end goal for you? What are you hoping to achieve in the sports media industry?
If you would have asked me that when it was my senior year, I would have been, so I was focused on hockey. I said, I want to be a team reporter. I want to be with a hockey team. That's it. Now, after everything that's happened, I don't really know. I mean, I'm open to anything. I wasn't really looking at local sports when I was graduating. I know that's a route that a lot of people go, but I wasn't really looking into it, to be honest. And the pandemic happened and I kind of changed my outlook, but never in a million years would I think that I was in Shreveport, Louisiana. I didn't even know what Shreveport was before coming here, and Louisiana is a state that I was like, oh, New Orleans, what else is there? I really didn't know, but so that's what like kind of my attitude is now, you're here for a little bit, you grow and you learn, and it's about the next step. And I just want to make sure that, I'm getting the experience now that will prepare me for that next step, whether it be another local market, hopefully a bigger market where, covering some professional and college teams, or if I'm with or with a team, or who knows, no one really knows. But I just think that I want to stay in sports for sure. And I love, telling stories, being on camera, getting to report and who doesn't want to be going to all these cool sporting events and games? I mean, it's the life, right? So I definitely want to stay in that, but as a certain place I want to go or a certain team I want to be with, I'm open to everything. I think that's what's important in this career because, you have to, I'm a girl from Long Island. I went to school in Syracuse and now I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana. It's a big change, but you have to be open to that. And I think that's what's so great about it is that I don't know what the next step is going to be, but I'm excited for it. And, hopefully I get to move somewhere that I never thought I would be, So yeah, that's the plan right now.
Yeah, definitely. No, you definitely have the potential for it. I mean, you're very talented at what you do. So definitely wouldn't be surprised to see that happen. I have to ask you too, being in Louisiana right now, is the food as good as people say it is?
It is, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous because, it's not the healthiest food, I'm going to tell you right now. So my boss actually jokes with me when I was, before I came, he's like, get ready to gain some weight because you're going to be eating a lot of food. And I'm not a big fried food lover, but here, there's a lot of fried food and it is good, but it's not the healthiest, but it's okay to indulge sometimes, but yeah, so it does live up to the hype. It does.
Okay, well that's cool to hear. All right, Sam, well I want to go ahead and end this interview asking you some rapid fire questions if you're up for it.
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Okay, first question here. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oh, I want to read minds for sure. I want to know what people are thinking.
Very cool. What's one food you can't live without?
Sushi. I love sushi.
Favorite sports movie?
Favorite sports movie? Miracle.
Nice. What's one city that you haven't been to, but you'd like to visit someday?
So I really want to go to Austin. I'm going to Austin this weekend for my birthday. So I'm
Hey,
checking that off the bucket list. Yes.
that's awesome.
Yes.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve is, I don't know. Oh my God. I'm also not good at rapid fire questions and like saying what my favorite this or that is. So this is stressing me out a little bit. But biggest pet peeve, I don't like when people are really cocky. I don't like that.
Yeah, no, I totally feel that.
I don't know if I can say that, but like, yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, you want to be confident, but not overconfident. That's yeah. Not cool. If you weren't working in the sports media industry, what would you be doing?
What would I be doing? Probably I would want to be a teacher. I think down the line I do want to teach, so I would probably be a teacher.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What subject would you want to teach?
I think I would want to teach like something at like Syracuse, one of my professors,
at Syracuse.
so like broadcasting or something like that. Yeah, not specifically at Syracuse in that realm. But before I got into broadcasting, surprisingly, I loved math. So I think I would want to be a math teacher, but now I don't, my math skills have gone away. I'm telling you, I can barely time out the shows now. So I think that's not happening. So I'll stick to broadcasting.
I mean, I got respect for anyone that can teach math. That's not easy.
I don't think I can anymore. I don't think I can. So
hey, maybe it'll come back. You never know.
Maybe.
Okay. What's your 3 favorite hobbies to do that are not sports related?
I love going to shopping. I love shopping. I love hanging out with my friends and family. And I love going to new places, traveling. So those are my 3.
Very cool. And a couple more for you. Describe yourself using just one word.
Loud, probably. Just a little bit.
I love that.
I don't stop talking, so that's fine. But it's, you know what? It's for my career. So
yeah, I mean, you're supposed to talk. I mean, yeah, if you didn't have that quality, I'd be worried. So
exactly right.
What's your favorite quote of all time?
Oh, my favorite quote. I've got to stick it with hockey. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That's the one.
Yep, that's a great one too. And last one for you here. What's one fun fact that a lot of people do not know about Sam Rothman?
Ooh, fun fact is that I lived in California for 2 years when I was in kindergarten and first grade. So I come off, especially people here, that I come off very New York. I think when the second I open up my mouth, start to talk, they're like, "You're not from here." But I am a true New Yorker, but I did spend some time all the way on the West Coast. So that is something that probably people don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah. Do you wish you had a heavy New York accent? I'm curious.
Well, okay. So do you think I have an accent?
Sort of, but not like some other people. Not like
I'm happy. Yeah. It comes out with a couple of words.
Yeah, a few. I have noticed.
A few. Yeah. But no, I don't, because you know what? I already get enough, a little talk about my New York accent, and especially being on TV, you have to be, and you don't know what market you're going to be in. So they all talk differently. So I want to be like even keeled, but yeah, I'm happy that I don't have the thick accent. A little bit, it reminds me of home, so it's okay.
That's true. That's awesome. All right, Sam. Well, thank you so much again for coming on the podcast today. Seriously, I loved having you on. You were an incredible guest. So keep up the great work, and just can't wait to see what you're going to do.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
Of course. Thanks again for coming on.
All right, fellas, so that was a sports student interview with Sam Rothman. Another big shout out to Sam for coming on the podcast today. So lucky I had the opportunity to interview her. She is so amazing, and I cannot wait to see what she does in the sports media industry down the line. But that'll do it for today's podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications so you don't miss a single new episode of a sports student interview. But that'll do it for today's podcast, and I will see you guys in my next one. All right, y'all, take care. Sports student, sorted out. Peace.